I'm Marnick. I'm gonna pop up. I'm gonna switch between the presentations. So sometimes I'm gonna show you some slides because I want to, and then I'll close it back down because I want to see you and do some stuff. And we'll see how it goes. You all look pumped. You have some have fetish socks and other don't hate socks. That's what I learned so far. It's a socky day here. Normally you see Natalie. If you're on mute and you see her, please nod so I know. Yeah, there you go. Boom. So I put her on her. So I'm Marnick Vandebroek. This is Natalie. And she's my wife, but also my business partner. She's not here right now, but I always keep her up there because she's part of the company. But also, if we're going to talk about storytelling, about entertaining people, about making them care about the things you care, and we have been living together for this year 15 years, next year 16. We're married for 6 years, and we live and work together. So we, even before COVID, 24 hours a day, and we never fight. And then people say, oh, you no longer have passion in your relationship. How can you never fight? That's impossible. We do have our disagreements, but I think in all those 15 years, we never raised our voices to each other or whatever, because there's always some way to communicate about it. There's always some way to understand it. And most fights that we have as human beings are, about nothing. So you can mostly stop. So I always keep that in there. So I say, if you take nothing for your teachings out of this presentation, this session, this 1 hour, at least it might give you some golden nuggets to communicate with your partner in life. So let's say that. So good morning. It's fun to say good morning. Yesterday I had China, India, and what country was it? It was all these different time zones. You have to go all the way. The good news is you're here. I saw some people saying, like, I want to entertain, I want to grab their attention, engage with students, with people that I'm talking about. And the good news is expressing yourself in a powerful way is not a gift, it's a choice. Robert is like, if we're going to talk about storytelling communication, I'm out. There he is, he's back. So it's expressing yourself in a powerful way is not a gift, it's a choice. So anybody, even if you think like I'm a bit more reserved as a teacher, or I'm a bit more shy, I know a lot about my content, but I'm not this big entertainer and I don't want to be, it doesn't really matter who you are. Know that there's always a way that you can learn. So that's the good news. But because what happens if we're talking about storytelling communication, getting people to take action on your days, getting students pumped up. Like, for example, I don't know if you know the Open Slava conference in Slovakia every year, the big conference where all the students that are in Java developers all come together. It's like 1,200 people. I speak there every year. It's now, last year it was the 4th year that I'm speaking there. And just to show you that even though I don't have a technical background, and this is not to pat myself on the shoulder like, ooh, Marnick, but every year I come there and the students are like, oh my God, tell us more. Yes, we want you to come back next year, just to show you that if you tell your story in the right way, whatever you're talking about, that no matter what the background is of the students, they will love it and they will engage with you and be like, oh my God, tell me more. Even though we often get the feeling as adults or as teachers or as parents that students don't always care as much about things that we care about, but we can change the way that we talk about it. So what happens most of the time, also in business, not just in schooling, we come in and we're like, yes, it's all super. Robert, for example, comes in and he says, JavaScript people, it's so important. We have to work with Oracle. And you see the light. And then students are like, yeah, I don't really know if I care about that much. I just want to do whatever, video games or just enjoy life as possible. Some are like, whoa, this is not for me. It's too difficult. I don't like school. I don't want to know about it. Get away from me. Other people are like, oh my God, this is so boring. Why do I have to go to school? I want to learn something, but I'm just reflecting on my childhood here. Why is it so boring, even though it's interesting? And then as teachers, this is how you start your career. Magic mics. You're like, I'm going to conquer the world. I'm going to tell the news that I'm going to develop these young people into robot machines, but also for the ladies, don't forget you Wonder Womans. You're like, yes, my career as a teacher, let's do this. Let's engage with these students. And I'm not saying this is with you because I don't know you. And I'm not saying that it is in general, but what you see a lot, also in businesses, also with CEOs coming in, like, I'm going to change the world. After a year or 2 years, you look like this, you're frustrated and you're like, they don't listen to me. They think it's boring. They don't make their tasks. They don't engage as much. We're doing everything online. That's even harder to connect with people, even though it's adult or student, doesn't really matter. And you get frustrated from bumping into those walls. And the reason why, and that's a bit the foundation of today, the reason why is because we are programmed to talk about the solution first. Everything we do, not just in school, but business, school, in our day-to-day lives, we are trained by our parents, by our schooling, by our surroundings, by our government to always come with a solution, an answer to a question. That's what we're programmed to do. And a cool example is when you go out with a friend, for example, and you're not having a really good day and you just want to talk about it, then you talk about what you're going through in the day. And then even with the best intentions, often your friend will then say, you know what you should do? You know who you should call? You know what I did? And even though he or she wants to help you with the best intentions, you're not waiting for that solution yet. You're like, yeah, but I just want you to listen. I don't want to hear all the solutions that you have for me because everybody keeps telling me what the answer is to my problems. And the reason for that is also when you're talking about what you're lecturing about, your courses, online, offline, doesn't really matter. The solution you know very well. We all know our solutions. But if people want to listen to it, there we have to realize that no matter where you are in the world, how old you are, we're all just human beings and people. And 93% of what we experience, also here, 93% is subconscious. Subconsciously, you are now analyzing me, how I move, how I talk, what I wear. Do I like socks? Don't I like socks? All these things, you're not thinking about it, but your body is analyzing and your body is deciding, okay, he started his presentation, his workshop, whatever you want to call it. Am I going to listen to this man? Is he going to be interesting? Am I going to accept the things that he's saying? Or I'm now already thinking like, oh, no, this Belgian guy doesn't know it. He thinks he's great, but this is not for me. That's what you're subconsciously now deciding or already have decided in the warm-up we did. And that's the same with students. We are people and we are emotional creatures. No matter how rational we think we are, definitely if you're in a more technical engineering IT environment, doesn't matter. You're still a human being, emotional. And if I I do this question every time if I do a conference somewhere. I ask people, go back to your schooling so many years back. Who do you remember in your school years? And for some people, that's 20, 30 years ago. And everywhere in the world I go, they always answer the same thing. The worst teacher or the best teacher. And then I asked them, what did they talk about? And often they have no clue what they said about math, about JavaScript, about economics, but they remember, did he get on my nerves or she? Or did he make me laugh? Or was she amazing and supporting me, whatever? The emotional part and all the other teachers in between, it's not a competition, but all they forget. But those two, the worst and the best, those they remember because emotions stick. And it's the same with your content. And that's why I started with the Open Slava conference. Why do the students remember? Why do the students get inspired? Is because you tap into their emotion. You still want them to remember the content because else it wouldn't be no point being in school. But how much they engage with you and how they remember, it's the emotional part. It's the 93% subconscious that you need to tap into. Same with this. Baby Shark, normally if we do a conference at end time, I would make you dance it, so you're lucky you don't have to do it. But Baby Shark, it was a huge, I don't know, was it in your, let me stop sharing real quick because I'm serious. Was it in your region really hot, Baby Shark? Was this a thing with the children? I see some people nodding. I see some people looking like, what is he talking about? There you go. That was the just before COVID, I had a private banking client. So I had 400 private bankers sitting in their suit in a physical room. And there also people said, Marnick, don't expect too much engagement from the crowd because it's private bankers. It's a very serious sector we're in. They're all in suits, big clients, millions of euros. So just keep it to the content. 20 minutes later, they were dancing Baby Shark and having the time of their life, no matter how old they were. Why? Because in the end, we're just people. And we all act serious in a suit and who. No, we're just people. And we all watch the cat videos on TikTok or whatever. But the Baby Shark thing, why was it such a big success versus all the other? Because it hit the Billboard 100 charts in the US. It went through the roof and it's a children's song. Because it's really simple. It's repetitive. The music tones really get in your ear, and psychologists analyze the song. And even though people think Baby Shark is for children and it's a stupid song, the reason it was so successful, not just because it was for children, is because you need your whole brain to process the song. Because of the entertaining, repetitive, simple, high-tuned things, it taps in, I don't know the whole explanation, but it taps in to your entire brain, while more rational stuff, more other songs that are more, they're well composed but less entertaining, will tap into your whole brain if you're interested in it. But if you're not interested, for example, into classic music, it will not do anything for you. This, an earworm, your whole brain. And that's why you can't get it out of your head, because your whole brain had to process the content. And if you can do that with your teachings, that if I walk out with a student online or offline, and you brought it in such a way that I just can't get it out of my head, and I'm like, oh my God, the thing that, I'll just stick a name here, Ivana, what she told me on our bare feet without any socks, I can't get it out of my head. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to do in my life. I love her as a teacher or professor or whatever. So that's how it works. Baby Shark, your story. And that doesn't mean everything has to be funny and not serious and comedy. That's not what it's about. But it's still any message, which you will see in a second, can be made engaging, entertaining, and inspiring. If it's not inspiring, if you're not inspiring, don't expect me to be inspired. If you're not convinced of your own stuff, don't expect me to be convinced. So let's go back. That's what I love about Zoom. It's so smooth. So did that allow you to see the slides again? Just to check that everybody sees what I'm seeing. Not if you see Baby Shark. There you go. So that's the whole idea. And then for those 93%, in any story, you have the solution. But before the solution, you have your credibility. Do you believe in your own course? Do you believe that you know how to bring it in the best way? Do you believe that this is the best thing you can teach these people? Because if it's not, no matter, not even if you said a word, they will sense it, that you do not believe in your own course, that you do not believe that this is the best way to teach it, or that you do not like online teaching. They will feel it up front, and you're actually already lost because you take that energy along. On the other hand, if you want to get people to excited about your course, excited about robots, excited about developing new software, you have to be excited too. And in your own way. You don't have to be me. I'm jumping all over the place. You don't have to be Marnick. That's not what I'm saying. But you have to be the best version of yourself, because people copy energy. And if you bring low energy, don't expect to get high energy, and know how to bring it. Credibility. But also, like Danilo said in the beginning, I was here at, what time was I here? At 9:30, something like that. 9:30, I logged in, and I had my presentation at now 20 minutes past 10. Why was I here up front? Because I wanted to check with you the sound. I wanted to check with you the video. I wanted to check the presentation. I wanted to make sure that everything worked before the rest entered. Also credibility. Because if I talk about engaging people and doing your story and believing in yourself, and the first thing that happens is that my presentation or whatever doesn't work, you are already deciding, he's not as good as I think I am. What is he going to tell me about teaching online courses if he can't even get his own video to work? That's how you work in your brain. Credibility. Second one is attention and trust. The thing you have been deciding in the last couple of minutes. Am I going to listen to you, Marnick? Do I trust you? Do I grant my attention? And do I want to listen to your solution in the end? Very important. Also with students or any other people that you talk to, if they don't grant you that attention and trust, you're speaking to a wall. Doesn't matter how great your solution is, they will not accept it. And the third part, and it's a bit of overlap, is the context. Do you understand my world? I want to know if you understand my world first, because if you don't, how can you bring a solution for me or a piece of content if I don't get the feeling that you understand my world? And on the other hand, show me your world, because for some reason you want me to step into your world. Well, show me the value that it has to step into your world. Simply for young people, I'm going to give you an example later on, but yesterday I also had another speech, and I had to talk to 18-year-olds from different backgrounds, different studies. And I wanted to explain them something about motivation and perseverance. And instead of talking about me and what I do in a living, because they can't relate, they're 18 years old, they haven't worked. And I'm 33, I'm very old for these people. I talked about my gaming. I talked about how I played Call of Duty. And I use Call of Duty as a way to explain my solution, my point. And you saw them all relating to me because they're like, yes, I also play Call of Duty. I also game. Look at him. He understands my gaming world. He knows all these streamers. You're like me. Tell me more, Marnick. Even though I'm old in their eyes, they feel that I understand their world and I link to them in an authentic way, and they're open to my message. Then you come with your solution, and then you come with your call to action. What do you want them to do? Make homework, work on a project, work together, think about what they want to do with their lives, whatever your course or that class is for. What do you want them to do? But this is the 5 things. If you look at any speech of a great CEO, Simon Sinek, any guru, movie speech, whatever you think is great, you will see that it will go through these 5 steps. Credible, attention and trust, emotional connection, understanding each other's world, bringing the solution, and call to action. What most people do, like I said, I don't say that you do it because I don't know, is focus on the solution. The content, what I'm bringing, what I'm teaching needs to be good, but forget about the first 3. And you could be in luck that people accept the solution, but most of the time, definitely online, because it's even harder to teach. People be like, here we go, it's class again. God, it's going to be a long hour. Exaggerating a bit, but I'm looking at how I sat in class back in the day. So these are 5 things. First one is credibility. I'm going to run through you in this hour with you through some concepts. The first one, I'm going to stop sharing, is credibility. And it's a really important one. It might sound really fluffy, but there's not enough talk about this in the business world and the education world. How do you feel right now? From a scale to 1 to 10, and not towards me or this session, but just in general. How did you enter this session on a scale from 1 to 10? If you don't feel comfortable, you might just put it in the chat, but how do you feel right now in general? 1 to 10. I have to 10. You're saying 8. Nice. And everything's okay. If you're a 3, you're a 3. I'm not here to judge. Everything is good. Just be honest. See in the chat here, we have a 7. We have an 8. Another 7, 7, 8, 9. Ooh, 9. Always pumped. We have Ivana saying 8 or 10. Was that 8 or 10, Ivana? It was 8. And we have a 7 for Cynthia. Look at that. I always say Robert is also 7. I always say it's a Belgian 7. If I ask this question in Belgium, everybody says 7. Because it's not too pumped because you could be arrogant, but also not too low because then you look depressed and we don't want that. And in Belgium, we most of the time take the 7. In the Netherlands, for example, it's always 8 or 9 or 0 or 1. Never anything in between. It's either we're or we're. So we have a 9, we have a 7. Nice. Ask yourself this when you're starting a class. I know we're human beings. Not every day is going to be as pumped. You had a fight with your partner. You lost someone in the family. You're sick. You're stressed. You had a bad meeting. A colleague did something he shouldn't have done. Whatever it is, we're still human beings. So I'm not expecting you to fake it and be pumped every single day. But what I am saying is that if you want to inspire people, convince people, and take definitely, because you're in the most challenging business there is, you have to take young people along in your story. I'd rather speak in front of a board of a big company than in front of students, because the board is more forgiving than students. So props to you for doing this job. But remember, if you want to take them along and you come in and you have, for example, a stressy day or your last class wasn't that good and you walk in with a 3 or a 4, no matter how good your solution is, I guarantee you, they will copy your behavior and energy. They will copy your 3 or 4 that you're bringing in, and don't expect them to love what you're doing or interact with you or whatever, because they feel your 4. Best example is comedy. If I go into a comedy club and I tell the same jokes with the same pauses, with the same movements, and I do it after I spend 3 hours in traffic, people won't laugh. And I can say it's a long 25 minutes if nobody laughs at your jokes. But I can do the same jokes, same pauses, same movement on another night when I'm feeling really good, when I'm feeling like Bowie a 9 or Martina an 8 or 7 any. And I come in and people will laugh at anything I say, even though it's not funny. They will laugh because they feel my energy and they're like, you're feeling good. I'm already feeling good. I don't even care what you say. It's really important. How many times have you come home from work or closed down your computer and your partner asks you, for example, what do you want for dinner? Just a normal question, but you're at a 3 or a 4 and you react to that question in your head in a normal way, you think. but you add your 3 or 4 energy, and your partner will be like, oh, sorry, man. I just ask a question. I'm just asking what you want for dinner. You don't have to attack me. And before you know it, you're fighting at home about something, and nobody can remember about what, but it's because someone brought their 3 or 4 out of 10 into the room, and it's affecting the way they communicate. So ask yourself next class, am I walking in pumped, ready to rock in your authentic way? Not necessarily mine. My 9 is different than yours. Or are you bringing your issues into the room and still expecting people to be engaged and happy to see you and listen to your class? It's a really important one. So you can affect this, but let's say you're all pumped, so that's good. And I'll see if you're pumped in a second. See if you're lying to me. This is how you can affect it. Let's say you are a 3 or 4. There's always a good version of you there. The best example here is, look at these 3 things. You have your thoughts, your feelings, and your behavior. Now, let's say you got up in the morning, you had a bad email the evening before you got up, you think about the email, and you're in a negative state of thought, but you still have to teach classes. So your negative thoughts will affect your feelings, will affect your behavior. And in the end, it will make sure you're a 4. This is what you're bringing into the room. This is your credibility. Now, if you are aware of this, like me, I then ask myself, where is this coming from? Is it in my thinking? Is it in my feeling? Is it in my behavior? And which of these 3 or all 3 can I adapt to be, even for an hour, be that 9 out of 10 instead of that 4? So if I'm thinking very negatively, I'll try to either do positive behavior, work out, for example, do some sport, or I'll really focus on my inner feeling, like what is really triggering me in this bad situation, and thinking about all the good stuff that might come from it. And you will see, if you adapt 1 or 2 of these things, they will affect each other, and you will get that 9, and your environment will adapt. Most extreme example, I had to give 2 workshops in a week. I lost my both grandmothers in the same week, and people still expected me to give workshops. Now I could decide, I'm not going to give the workshops because I'm not feeling pumped, but if I decide to give the workshops, these people expect my A game. Yes, I can bring a 2 or a 3 because they will understand my grandparents died. But in the end, after half a day, they'll be like, Marnick, we're paying for this. This needs to be good if you want to take us along. So I can ask myself, where is it sitting, and what can I do to adapt? And I gave the workshops, and I didn't even notice. Not saying that I totally faked it and blocked out everything that was happening with my grandparents, but for that moment, I rocked it. Another easy example is, you're not feeling great. Put a pencil between your mouth or smile at yourself. I do this in front of every conference. You might have heard this before. It's not something I'm inventing, but the curling of your mouth, positive behavior, is telling your body that you are happy. It works. It sounds stupid, but it works. For every conference, I stand in front of a mirror, I smile with myself, I do big movements. There you go. Do it, and I guarantee it works. There you go. Ivana says it works. It definitely works. But also other stuff. You come home from work, you're stressed, you do sports, you do something you like physically, that's positive behavior, you will come back and feel less stressed. That's how the circle works. Do that in front of your classes, and you will see, no matter if you're still doubtful about your content, people will copy that behavior. Make sense? All right, cool. I once had, I'm going to continue further the timing. Let's share. Back in. So you can decide, is my environment going to affect me and I'm going to bring it into the room, or am I going to affect myself and bring my A game into the room so my environment adapts to that? And then you will see people will copy your behavior. If people like what you're doing, they will copy it, and that's what you want. Now, this is also important, not just to bring that energy, but also to realize that in your communication, in your teachings, definitely online, that's why I'm happy that most of you have your camera on, is 7% is words, 38% is tone of voice, and 55% is your movement, your body, your face, what is moving. Definitely online, there's a lot of energy lost through the screen than in real life. So you really have to work with that. Now, a lot of people focus on the content, on the words, 7%, they're super important, but there's only 7, and forget to change your tone of voice and forget to work with movement or their body and eyes. That's why it's so hard to convince someone when you don't have your camera on. And the best example these days of how important this is is this. Everybody knows this. Try to make a joke with this on. Try to tease your colleague with this on. They will not get it because you lose so much movement in your face. You lose so much of your tone of voice that it's really hard subconsciously for your body to analyze. Is Titanilla, is she serious or not? Is she making a joke? What is she doing? I can't analyze it. It gets me nervous. I don't trust her. I don't want to give attention. What the hell is going on? That's what's happening every day. So a great story, your course, your class, isn't not necessarily about what you say. It has to be correct, of course, but I trust that you know what you're doing. But it's about how you say it and how it makes people feel. Let's do a little exercise here. I'll do it without the slides, maybe better. Quick exercise. We do have time. Let's see who feels really, who feels comfortable in English? Real quick, just to do one. 7 people, okay. Well, more. Oh my God, I have to choose here. I'll just, everybody feel comfortable in English. That's amazing. I'll just choose a person that is now looking at me on the big screen here, and that's Edina. You're like popped up on my screen, so I'll take you. Is what I want you to do, can you put your mic on, please?
Sure.
There you go. Where were you on a scale from 1 to 10?
I was at 8, I think.
8, nice. So you're ready. So you're pumped because that's important. If you're 4, you cannot do this. You're at 8. What do you still remember what you did this morning from the time you got up to when you came into this workshop?
Yes.
Yeah. So you know what you did, breakfast and all this stuff. Okay. What I want you to do, and these are 2 concepts I want you to remember, is I want you to first tell your morning to us in an associated way, which means you link yourself with your morning. I want to get the feeling, and also the group, that we're actually in your morning. We're living it with you. You add color, you add assumptions, interpretation, emotion. I want to feel your morning as bad as good. You link yourself, you associate yourself with your morning. Okay? Can you do that?
I hope so.
All right, let's see. Go. Give us your morning.
Yeah, so I woke up first. I had a great morning because this is the day of my week when I didn't have to start at 8, but only at 10. So I already felt quite like comfortable in my bed. I could do a little bit more like stretching myself before waking up. And then I went into the kitchen thinking about what I will have for breakfast. And then I cooked a nice oatmeal, put some chocolate on that. These small pieces of chocolate, you know, that makes an oatmeal much more enjoyable than alone. Yeah. Then I took my second laptop. So usually I'm using my company laptop also for watching films on Netflix and whatever private reasons, but that I am not allowed to put the Zoom application. So I took my old slow laptop, which is actually quite nice, and I use it for a lot of time, and we have a lot of common memories together. But now I had to switch it off for a while, and I took my old laptop, put the Zoom application on it, tried it out.
Right. Stop.
To work.
Sorry? I'm going to stop you there. It's a great morning. I'm not stopping you because it's not interesting. Don't worry. But that's enough content. You did great. I want you to do it one more time and go the extra mile. You did great. You're doing what you're doing, and I'll explain what you did great in a second. But I want to feel your morning more. Now I'm getting the structure of the morning, but I want to feel more. How was the laptop? How was your breakfast? And add a little extra.
Do you have some practical tips how to do that?
I'll give you an example. If I have to explain my morning, okay. I would say, I got up this morning. I mean, actually, I was pretty fit when I got up, and I was like, okay, let's do this. I have a couple of talks coming my way, but still a little sleepy for some reason. Maybe I went to bed a little late, but I got on, and Natalie was already awake, and it was new bag day. We were big coffee fans. A new bag day means a new fresh bag of beans gets opened, and then the smell is like, oh. So I could already smell the coffee coming up the stairs. So it was like, oh, new bag day. Let's do this. That's what I mean with give me something more.
Okay, so now I took off a pullover because I'm feeling so much like challenged with this experience, with this exercise that I have to like put in my body and put in my movements and whatsoever. So what I did was like a chocolate on my oatmeal, and that chocolate, that dark chocolate is having such a taste which you cannot change with the milk chocolate because the milk chocolate is to me so too sweet. Yeah. And the dark chocolate instead is having that little bit of bitter, but still tastes like wonder. And that made my oatmeal just perfect.
All right. And I know you're now thinking like, what the hell am I doing? This is weird, but it was really good. And I'll tell you why in a second. Now I want you to tell the same story that you just told me, but in the second concept, and that's dissociating. I want you to take distance from your story. I want you to look at your morning from above and just describe it to us factually. Really just a fact, no emotion, no interpretation. You are an external person looking at your morning.
Today my morning started at 8 o'clock. Sorry, at 10 o'clock. The usual mornings this week started at 8 o'clock, so that gave me a little bit of more time to relax, to rest, which gave me some extra freshness for the morning. Then I woke up, get out of the bed, go into the kitchen, took my oats together with my milk and boiled it for 5 minutes, then put it into a plate, and then take out the chocolate from the cupboard, piece it up.
Okay, stop there. Very nice. What you see there, we can analyze the whole thing, but just due to timing, I want to give you as much content as possible. But what happened there, I hope also the audience saw, is I didn't tell you how to, because your story, your morning is actually your course that you're giving as a teacher. It doesn't matter what content it is. It's everything is the same. I told you to link yourself with your story. In the beginning, I know it's a bit awkward putting you on the spot. You have to practice a bit, but it was good. Why? Because even though I didn't tell you how to move, how to speak, what to do, you told your body, I'm feeling good. You raised your hand. You're saying, I'm an 8. Marnick, I want to do this exercise. I feel comfortable talking English. Let's go. So that's your credibility part we talked about. And that allowed you to trust your body. And what you did in your morning was you started adding color, emotion, interpretations. And what happened to your body, I don't know if the audience saw, immediately you started moving. You started stretching. You started supporting your story, and things started moving in your little screen. And you saw your colleagues laughing, nodding, going into, oh my God, this is funny, this is cool. Oh, my breakfast also. They started also linking themselves to your morning. And you saw that in their reaction. But your body knew, I needed to support this story. I needed to smile myself. I needed to bigger movements. Your voice went up a notch and you started talking a bit faster. Mm-hmm. That happens to every one of you. If you're feeling good. If you're not feeling good and you're nervous and you're feeling bad, your body will be like, so yeah, my morning was this, and you don't do anything. Then you get these nervous twitches. But you associate it yourself, your audience will start associating yourself, and your body will do bigger movements, higher voice, faster talking, and more details in your story. That's associating. Subconsciously, you inspired us. You probably won't remember what your morning was like, but you inspired us because as human beings, we see high-pitched voice, more details, more assumptions, whatever, bigger movements, more movements in your face, smiling, whatever. We see that as I'm being inspired. Now, the second part was you distancing yourself from the story and saying, I'm just going to give you the facts. You saw your body immediately, smaller movements or no movements, or maybe it's just very tiny, like be specific, less emotion. Easier to follow. It was easier to follow and structure your day. We know exactly what you did when, but it wasn't necessarily that we walked out and said, my God, you have the best morning ever. It was easy to follow. A lower voice and a slower voice. This is saying to people, I'm being convinced. Now, if you put that in your perspective and you're teaching something, I don't know what you teach exactly, so I'm just going to make this up, but if you combine, because you need to be able to do both. And let's say you choose a part of your course and you say, here I want to inspire the students to get their attention, but here they really need to focus and I want them to know the numbers. So if you would start like the sock thing that we talked about. This morning I got up and I was like, it's another beautiful day and I can sit inside again and it's a Zoom call. And what does a Zoom call mean, my dear students? It's no sock day again. Because if you do not have socks on, your body temperature will lower, you'll have more interaction with the ground, and that means you will use the static power of the earth and you can transfer it into your computer, which will charge your computer without putting pressure on the planet. You will use that. It's amazing. But how do you do that? You need to be careful. You need to be careful if you do this at home because there's a danger in not wearing socks. Because if you don't wear socks, the static magnetic field of the earth will drive through you. And if it's too much, too fast, it might make you gassy or something. Whatever. I'm making this up. I see some people laughing. Okay. But you see there what I did. I just made the story up. But in the first one, I associated. I want you to laugh and be like, oh my God, what the hell is he talking about? I got your attention. We're like, where's this sock story going? But then I wanted you to be aware of the fact how dangerous this is. And I wanted you to focus on the numbers, what it can do, what the dangers are. And there I went lower, slower. And there's no right order. It depends on what story you're telling. But this is how you can play and influence the subconscious of your students. And if you do it like that, instead of just a monotone, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new class. Take out your digital books. We're going to check on chapter 2. Don't expect them to pay attention because you lost them in the first second. Not saying that you're doing that, Edina, but this is how you sometimes see that going. So everybody can do this, and everybody has their own way. I have my own way of associating this, and you have your own way. But I'm just saying practice this, and you will see that if you do this at the right moments, at the right times, with the right energy, they will love what you're doing, even online. So we can go, I could do workshops all day on this, but for the time that we have, take this concept with you, associating, dissociating, when do you do what. But you can only do this if you feel right. That's important. If you're not an 8, you can't do it. Okay. So Danielle, how are we on timing? On my timer, I have like 25 minutes, something like that. I don't want to mess up the next speakers. Yeah, we could also use this slide to describe it, but I took you morning. The second part is, and thank you, Edina, you did a great job. I see you smiling like, oh my God, it's the best exercise ever.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, there you go. So everybody can do this, no matter who you are. Some people are more dissociated by nature, other people are more associated by nature. You have both. So if you want to analyze yourself, if you are a person that talks to their friends and you lose structure, you talk too fast, too many details, and people are like, whoa, I can't follow anymore, you're too associated. If people are like, I tap out in the first minute because you're too boring, then you're too dissociated. But you need both, so you need to practice a bit. And the second part is the trust and attention. If there is no emotional connection between you and your audience, whatever that audience is, people won't listen. If I do not have an emotional connection with you now, and you have more time to build that connection with your students than I have right now, you won't listen. You won't accept what I'm saying. And I'm also not expecting everybody to be like, oh, Marnick, I agree with what you're saying. But if we don't have a connection, you do not trust me, you don't want to grant the attention, there's no point in me doing this. And how does that work? I, for example, am not a big fan of roller coasters or anything that goes fast and high and whatever. Natalie, on the other hand, and my friends, they love it. But I just want to explain to you how trust works. But I challenge people in my workshops to step out of their comfort zone. So I say, practice what you preach, crack credibility. So I challenge myself on my own fears. So I said to them before COVID, let's go to Disneyland and I will follow you into any roller coaster that you go into. No questions asked, I'll do everything you do. I regretted my decision immediately, but it was the best 3 days ever. I had so much fun. Doesn't seem like this, but this is in the Space Mountain. But how does it work? The first time I went to the Space Mountain, I was hearing all these sounds and all these people screaming, and I heard the corkscrew. I was like, what the hell am I doing? My whole body was screaming, get the hell out of there. I went in there. I didn't even open my eyes, maybe hear a bit, and just screamed all the way through. But the second time we went into the Space Mountain, I was still nervous, but more relaxed because my body was like, this sound I know. They're going to the corkscrew right now. And this is why this should be so tight around me. This is normal. The wheels aren't breaking off the cart. I'm probably going to survive this. I recognized certain things. The more I recognized it, the more I trusted it because I had a previous positive experience. The more I get these positive experiences, the more trust I have. And this is also how it works in relationships. The more, Edina, for example, that we connect with each other, the more that I give you positive experiences, the more your body will be, I'll trust Marnick. Yep, Marnick is a trustworthy person. If I ever mess it up, then your last memory of me will be a bad one. And then the next time you'll be like, Marnick last time. And my trust will lower again. Same with relationships. Someone cheats on you. It's really hard to build that trust again. But that's how trust works. Basically just positive experiences, creating positive memories, creating recognition for your body subconsciously. The more recognition, the more trust. What we trust, we want to give attention, and so on. So it's your job as a teacher, as a storyteller, as a communicator, to create that recognition, that tangible recognition, those positive experiences as fast as possible. The more you can do that using your energy, associating in your story, the better you will connect with people. Let me make that concrete, what I just said. So the more people are like, oh my God, this is a positive experience, the better for their lizard brain. And I have a whole book, not promoting the book here, but yes, I'm promoting a whole book on this. Stand expressing yourself in the most powerful way. Go to Amazon. On this whole chapters, but I'm going to keep it simple for today, is basically the more people get the feeling that you're like them, the more they will trust you. The more students get the feeling that you understand the world and that you tell something that they know, that they understand, that links to them, the faster you will get attention and trust. You don't have to fake it. You don't have to be someone you don't, or talk about gaming, for example, if you're not a gamer, because that's not authentic and that would be weird. But there's always some way you can link yourself or show them that in essence, even though you're not the same age or same background, you're the same. And when people, same with the energy, get the feeling that you are like them, they will start copying your language. They will start copying your behavior. And before you know it, your students will use the same words as you use because they trust you, and they start copying what you do, who you are. I have CEOs, for example, in my world, that when the moment they say, Marnick, but what about the attention and trust? We really need to think about that point. When they start using my words, I know, okay, they're on board because they're copying my language, they're copying my behavior. Now, like I said in the book, there's a whole chapter on how to create that also in other conversations, but basically for you right now, can you create this in the courses that you're teaching? Recognition, tangibility. Make it tangible, make it recognizable. And to give you an example here, because you're in a technical situation, this is not something from a course of students. This is a founder of a startup that wanted to convince a board of investors of why they're so great to work with and why they should invest money. He's an engineer, technical background, but imagine this being your course on JavaScript, on robotics, on AI, on whatever you're teaching to your students, experienced, not experienced. He came to me and he said, I'm going to change this for myself so I can read it. He came to me and he said, Marnick, I know what I'm going to talk about. This is how I'm going to start my story. Attention and trust. You have to know, Marnick, these people don't know anything about engineering, so I really have to make the story stick. I need to make it recognizable for them so they understand, or they won't give me their money. Same for you. You also have to make it understandable for your students. And he said, I'm just going to read it. I know you can read, but hi, I'm X, founder of Y. In short, we make smart sensor networks for industries so they can use the sensor data as insights for structural health monitoring. We're doing this in 2 different ways. We make custom setups for customers with a specific need, and we develop our own products and put them in the market. Strain gauges are a sensor of choice, but we work with all kinds of sensors. Capturing data with sensors might not come off as innovative, but we leave with our algorithms that we can pick up anomalies, and we can not only notify our customers, but immediately indicate the origin of the problem, give them insights in their data that we can make a big difference for the lifetime of their assets. Are you pumped? Would you invest? Some people are yes, some people, but depending on your background. I think if you're an engineer, technical background, this could be of interest to you because you're looking at the same world. Now imagine reading this like me, not having an engineering background, not knowing yet exactly how everything works. This attention and trust, this is a solution. This is exactly dissociating saying what you do, but it doesn't necessarily that people go along. Definitely if they do not entirely have the same knowledge as you do. For example, students that not yet have the same knowledge as you do. So I asked them again, make this tangible, recognizable, same story, but these people need to know what you do. You explain it here, but I want you to associate and I want you to create it in a recognizable way. And what he did was, it was a Zoom call. He went into the kitchen and said, Martin, let me think about this for a second. He walked out of screen, he came back, and he came back with an elastic band. And Danilo already knows the story. But I think it's a great example. He came back with an elastic band. And he said, well, if I have to explain this story again, but make it more recognizable, so people get interested, excited. He says, well, what we do basically is, this is an elastic band. Everybody knows an elastic band, you have it in your kitchen, you use it to put around bags or whatever. He says, when I stretch this elastic band, the materials inside the elastic band will start moving. There will be pressure on it. And you know that if I stretch the elastic band too far, it will snap. This is normal. And you might think, like, why is this important to me? He said, but with our sensors and the way we analyze this, we can measure what the materials are doing inside the material. So I can tell you exactly when the elastic band will snap. He says, and that might not sound very important, but imagine this elastic band being the bungee rope about your feet when you're about to jump off a bridge. Imagine this being the cable on your ski lift during your ski holiday. Imagine this being one of those cable bridges that you drive over with your car over a ravine somewhere. You will want to know when that is about to snap. So what we do is we measure what materials do. In the other measure, we call it measuring the wonders of science. And we can tell you exactly when we need to replace a certain thing or when it's overdue or whatever. That's what we basically do. And then he, of course, continued the story of what he does, exactly how much it's going to cost, investments, what he needs. But he convinced all investors. They all invested in his company, even though they have no engineering technical background. They were super excited, even forwarded the mail he got from that group saying, like, this was one of the best pitches we ever saw. Why? Because everybody knows a bungee rope. Everybody knows the feeling of standing on a bridge, hoping that you got the right rope and that it won't break. Everybody knows how, for some people, like me, sitting on a lift, thinking like, I hope they checked it during summer and that this cable is not gonna break. It's recognizable. I know it, I trust it, tell me more, I wanna see. And I can imagine that whatever course you're teaching, you can do this for your own courses. And that's the success of Open Slava when I'm speaking there. It's not necessarily because of me, but everything I say, I link to their world. And every time these students are like, yes, tell me more, that's exactly what we want to hear, because they get the feeling they're hearing something that they know. The more you can do that, the more trust and attention you get. Let's check in the chat here. All right, sharing the book, nice. Robert has to go to his supervisor. He has to tell us everything that he's learning right now. Robert says we have to change everything we do right now. That's why he's going to his supervisor. Adina is looking, well, what are you talking about? Look in the chat, Adina. There's a conversation going on. Okay.
No, I secretly just searched for the same book on my phone in between. And
nice.
Titanina shared it as well.
I will now give you all 5 minutes to buy the book. No, just kidding. Okay. So that, I know I'm going fast a bit, but I'll give you as much as possible, books more, or later on, whatever I come back with sort. So the last thing is recognize, and it's worth everything. When I do comedy, I don't start with jokes. I start talking about what happened in the region that day. And it's not even a joke, but if I go to a certain place, let's say London, I have to perform in London, and I come in, and this is not gonna be a joke, but I start talking about the renovations on the Big Ben, and I say something about that, I can guarantee you people will start laughing because they're like, oh my God, you saw that? Those renovations has been going on for ages. The government has no clue what they're doing. And immediately you get a connection because you talk about something they recognize, they know, and they're like, you're talking about it, so you must also be trustworthy. More recognition, the more trust. A great storyteller once said, a great story is how much another person can recognize their story in your story. That's the goal. And you as teachers tell stories every single day. So it should be your greatest skill. Same with online Zoom calls. This is my audience here. You probably have a younger audience, but also there, if I come into a Zoom call, I had a call with people from Accenture, I think. All VP did, president of this, very important people. Like we say, they look very serious. And there was this one person sitting there with really small headphones, pink. And I think it was one of the big chiefs, board members. And I said, before I start this meeting, I just want to know, I really like your headphones. And he starts laughing and he says, yeah, I'm glad you noticed. And all the other board members like, oh my God, I was thinking the same thing. He says, well, I forgot mine at the office, but we currently can't go to the office. It was a while back and was very strict. And he said, so I'm in my daughter's room with my daughter's headphones. That's why they're pink and small. And everybody starts laughing. But immediately you had attention and trust because people were like, yeah, we're just human talking about something they know. So also there, students with Star Wars characters in their background, with a flag of something representing something, dare to name it. Talk about it in your opening when everybody's coming in. Make sure that these students talk about something they know, link yourself with it, and you will get so much trust and so much more acceptance for your story. And I put an alpaca here, by the way, because you can do that in Zoom. You can invite an alpaca to your meeting. It's crazy. Yes, that's exactly what I want. I want an alpaca in my meeting. So I know very quick, but credibility, energy, dissociating, associating, practice it. Bring your A game. Don't bring your issues into the room because people will copy your behavior. Attention and trust, basic idea, as much recognition as possible. Talk about something they know, link your story to something they know, and get their attention and trust. And then we go into context, checking the time, into context. And that means great stories inspire action. It doesn't mean that if we have a connection that you will always agree with everything that I say. Because we are all looking at the same world, but we are seeing it differently. Because if I ask you, for example, I can't see all of you, just put it in the chat or shout something. But if I ask you, what do you see? Associate yourself with this picture. What is happening here? What would you say? Just type something in the chat or yell it.
Yeah, you can unmute yourself, guys. It's easier, maybe. Esther, I don't know. Connection.
What do you think, Titano? What would you think what is happening here, according to you?
It was a hard day for the lady, for sure, because she has some thrown on the face. She's not really satisfied with something. Maybe the wine, or maybe something, a gift from the husband. Mm-hmm. They are a couple. They are a couple for sure.
Okay. Edina, what are you saying?
I would say this is a first date, and the both parties are having different feelings when leaving it, kind of. So maybe the man is going to plan with the second one, but the woman not really.
Okay, good one. Nice. And I can go on forever like this, but it's the thing. We all see the same picture, but you're all seeing something differently. And that's also what your students and people hearing your story, you can be convinced of something and you can have an emotional connection like you have an emotional connection with your parents, but it doesn't mean they look at the world the same way you are doing that. And some people might see, like you say, she's not very happy. He's very happy on the first date. There's a difference. Or some people will say they're having a fight. He just confessed that he cheated on her and he's like, I'm not having it. Some people say she's not happy because she saw that he's not wearing his wedding ring. Other people say, no, this is just a romantic dinner. What are you all talking about? There's no negativity. It's just two people enjoying a dinner. Other people say he's so impressed by her wine knowledge and she's tasting the wine and he's like, wow, honey, you know so much about wine. Everybody sees something else because of your schooling, your upbringing, the things you had subconsciously during your day. That's how you will analyze this picture. The key to a good storyteller is knowing how your audience looks at the world and linking yourself with it and then showing your version of the world and giving them value that they want to step into your world. I'll make that concrete in a second. So start with who? Who, personal value, who is in front of you? Because you have to open the door because you're convinced of what you're teaching is the best thing for them. You want them to take that knowledge, do something with it, make their homework, evolve, work on your projects, and then you will see a bright future for them. But if they trust you and give you attention, if they do not look at the world the same way, they might be like, yeah, whatever. It's not going to work in our region. This is not for me, not smart enough. This is not, don't want to do it. You need to open that door to that world view that you have by showing them the value and making them want to step into your world. And I'll give you an example. I don't even need the slides. I'll show you what the slide I'm talking about. This one. Most people ask, like, I want a sandwich story. But to show you what I mean, and I'm going to give it from my world because I teach in workshops, but just to give an example of how it works in my world, and it's the same for you, is let's do the sandwich toilet story that I showed you there. I was asked by a client of ours saying, Marnick, we are moving our factory to one big European hub, which means that everybody in all the other factories has to come to this factory. That means people have to move for their jobs, have to drive 30 to 40 kilometers. We'll get a new work environment. People will get mixed with each other. It's a huge project. It's so great. It costs millions and millions of euros. And you know what? Nobody cares. We only get fear of losing job. Factory workers are not happy. The unions aren't happy. Nobody really seems to care and see how great your worldview, see how great this project really is. That's what the board says. So that's you saying, the students, I'm not saying that all your classes and people are not interested, but just go with me on this. That's you saying, my teachings are amazing and it will change your life, and we will build robots and develop JavaScript and work with Oracle and it will change your lives. That's what you're seeing. That's what the board is saying. Nobody cared. So they said, how do we change that? Well, by telling them stories using the 5 elements that I'm describing you today. Do you believe it yourself? Are you bringing the right energy? Are you creating recognition, attention, and trust? And do you understand their world? And can you give them value so that they want to step into your world and hear your solution, which is a new factory and a new job, and give them the call to action to actually care? So what we did was work with the operation manager and said, have you ever asked your employees what they care about? I know they're scared. I know they don't want to move. They don't like change, but there's always something that they care about their new environment because they know it's coming anyway. He said, well, we did a survey, but we didn't use it. I said, why? Well, because the first top answers of everybody was, and Marnick realized this is a million euro project. He says, the first answers were, where will we order food? Who's going to deliver the sandwiches in the factory at lunch? And are the toilets in the bathrooms and the showers, are they open, top, bottom, or are they closed? Because they're open and you ate chili con carne or something and you have a bad intestine day, everybody can hear you and it's really awkward and it's not relaxed on the toilet. He says, those were one of the first. How can we spend so much money on this and this is what they care about? We can't use this. I said, this is what you're going to use. Why? Because your worldview is, this is amazing. This is the best project ever. Their worldview is, I'm going to lose my job and you're only doing this to get a promotion, a big bonus, and you do not care about us at all. We're just factory workers and you have no interest in us. That's how they look at the world. So what you got to do is show them value, show them that they are being listened to, that they are a part of this and that you're doing it also for them. So what he did was we organized info sessions with your classes. And he started his story, his course, his class for you. And he started saying, I know here I am again with my factory. And everybody's like, oh, here we go again. He says, but do you still remember that we asked you a while back what you cared about on this project? Well, these were the results that we got in from everybody over the different locations. And he talked about the sandwiches. He talked about the toilets. And everybody started laughing because I was there physically. And everybody in the factory started laughing and started talking to each other. I also filled that in. Oh yeah, so definitely you, because you're on the toilet, you're a danger on the toilet. And they started interacting with each other because you talked about something they knew. They all filled in the sandwiches and the toilets. That's what they care about. That's what I want to know. And they recognized it, so they had their attention. Like, okay, this is interesting. Now I want to know because you listened to me. And the operation manager's face lit up. It was like, oh my God, this is the most interaction I ever had. And he said, well, the factory is not done yet, but most of the basics are already there. And the architects took into account everything we asked you. So this is where we're going to order the sandwiches. This is how you're going to order the sandwich using a very easy app. This is your choice. The toilets are closed top to bottom. You have a lot of showers. There's so much room for women, men, everything is there. And we took it into account. And you see these people literally taking a step forward because they were standing in the factory hall, taking a step forward and looking at the picture of their new work environment that they've so much feared. And then he continued the story of the roadmap, bringing the solution, what they were going to do, and blah, 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 blah. But he recognized their worldview. He showed them his worldview and got them personal value, like what is in it for you, to make them care and very recognizable. What happened 2 to 3 weeks later, he calls me up and he says, Marnick, at the request of the employees, we are now doing next weekend a family day at the factory site to show them what their new workplace is going to look like. Because they want to see, even though they're still scared, they still fear that they're going to lose their job. Not everything was solved, but their interest was there. That's what you want to do in your courses. That's what you want to create. But students are like, I came in here like, oh, another class, but your energy is already contagious. The way you're bringing it, you're inspiring me, you're convincing me. You're talking about something I know. Tell me more. You understand my world. Yes. This is your worldview. You're giving me personal value. Ooh, I can do that. My robot can clean my whole room, so I don't have to clean it myself. How do I build it? Tell me more. Just talking about random stuff. If you can do that, my God, it doesn't matter what you teach. Anybody will connect with you and follow. Looking at the time, we're almost there. No, don't worry. So that's what I mean with worldviews connecting with the personal value. I have a book full of these stories, from using fish tanks to convince people to work more with data, to using the ice bucket challenge to convince people to innovate. You can read it all about it in the book, or talk to me or connect with me on LinkedIn if you want to know. And then to wrap it up, I'm not going to do the exercise because it's going to take us too far. How do you know all this stuff? And that's the last thing I'm going to ask of you, is if you prepare your courses, not just prepare what you want to teach, what you need to teach, but do the goal audience value exercise. Meaning, what is the specific goal, the specific call to action of this class? What do you want them to do at the end of the class specifically? So you know where you want to go with your story. Who is your audience? Of course, it's your students, it's the people that you're teaching for. But what do you know about them? What do they care about? How do they look at the topic you're going to talk about? Are they skeptical? Are they enthusiastic? Is it something they're going to like, not like? Have they done it before? Is there something they read about? Is something happening in the news? How is your audience perceiving what you're going to talk about? And the last one is then, in function of this audience, in function of this goal, what is the value you can bring? How can you trigger them to show them this is actually relevant for them, to get them excited, to be like, oh my God, I want that too, even though I thought I didn't care. If you can do that preparation, I'll give you an example. You're actually cooking for a group of friends, and you actually know that who's allergic to what, and who likes chicken and who doesn't like chicken, instead of just making something and hoping that they're going to like it in the end. So this is something someone did for a workshop, which could be a workshop or a course that you're teaching. And I asked him, do the goal audience value exercise. How do you do that normally? He says, well, I prepare my workshop, and if I have to do the goal audience value, it's goal, teach a group of lawyers about LinkedIn. Audience, a group of lawyers, value, more info on how to use LinkedIn. Now, this is all correct, but this leaves a lot of room for interpretation and also gives you no insight about what you can use for recognition, how they look at the world. It doesn't give you any insight on what the value could possibly be for these people to convince them to work more with LinkedIn. Now relate that to your own courses, to your own teachings. I asked him to do it again, and he came up with this. The goal is, in my course, to get a group of lawyers to be more active on LinkedIn, KPI, which is the key performance indicator, their first posts directly after the workshop, plus an increase in SSI, meaning social selling index, that they actually start building their brand on LinkedIn. And a sub goal is to get more trust on LinkedIn, because we're going to do campaigns in the company. That's what I want when I walk out. I want them to actually start using LinkedIn at that point. It's making their homework. The audience, I'm not saying you should read everything, but this is not just a group of lawyers. This is a group of lawyers, of senior lawyers, of 3 people that are heavy users on LinkedIn, of people that have a perception to hold up their expertise, that they have to be important as lawyers. All these things, previous experiences, how they look at the world, it's all listed here. And based on this, he came with value. What could possibly trigger these lawyers to go and be active on LinkedIn? If you do this for every course you do, which I also do for conferences, or if I have to pitch, then you have your story very easily, because then you can put it in the 5 elements that we discussed: credibility, attention and trust, context, solution, call to action. And you have your story. And to give you an example, 2 days ago, I had to do a pitch that I didn't want to do, but I did it out of courtesy for someone else. And I did my pitch, I did my goal audience value. And afterwards, we got the call saying we had the project. So even though you don't want the project, if you use this, you're going to get the project, or you're going to get people excited. But why? Because the feedback was, you know exactly what we want. You know, you described perfectly what is going on in our company. That was the feedback. And that's what I want you also for your students, that they say, this teacher is so amazing. I'm going to remember him or her 30 years from now, because they got my attention, they talked about, they understood me, and they showed me how great it was to work with AI, with software, to programming, IT, whatever you're teaching. But only if you do it. Otherwise, it's just another course that they're probably going to forget about. That being said, if you want to know more, read the book on Amazon. I shared the link in the chat. It's in English. It's all there. Examples going through all the elements we talked about. And I guarantee you, I'm not overselling this, but I guarantee you, if you do this, not even reading the book, but if you do this, you will see a big change in how students interact offline, online. So time for you to stand up as a teacher and stand out in the way you communicate, and you will see beautiful things happening. Thank you very much. And if you want to connect with me and Natalie, find us on LinkedIn, Instagram, standupcompany.com, and back to you.